Hey everybody, what's up? It's Startup Survival here, and I'm just going to make a quick video to compare the Leatherman Rebar with the Leatherman Supertool 300. These two multi-tools are extremely popular and I think a very good price point. And these are for people who do not care about flash, but they want quality construction at a fair price, because Leatherman does make less and more expensive multi-tools to choose from. So I think that the people who choose these are going to be looking for that sort of classic Leatherman design, because they do resemble the heritage of earlier multi-tools in the sense that they don't have any external tool sets on them. Every tool here is internal, so you can't access anything from the external. The owner of these multi-tools, my good buddy, one of the reasons he likes these so much is because there are no external tools, like for example on a Leatherman Wave. So people who don't trust that the tools will stay in the tool, you know, these could pop out theoretically. Like if you're carrying this like tip down, it's possible for that knife to pop out and then for you to reach in your pocket and get injured by it. I'm personally not worried about that. I think that I've never experienced anything like that, and it's extremely rare to hear about that happening. But some people are concerned about that, and some people choose folding knives that only have certain mechanisms because they only trust certain mechanisms, and that's fine. But I just wanted to point out that there are no external tools on these two multi-tools. So with that, let's get into it and have a look at them here, because I think they're very interesting, really cool designs. So of course they are literally mirror images of each other. Not literally, because the Rebar is slightly smaller than the Supertool 300, but the tool sets are identical. In terms of overall size, before I continue, I should just say that I think they're both really cool, but if I was to choose one, I'm going to choose the Rebar. I just feel like this fits my hand a little better. It's going to be easier to carry, and I just think the Supertool 300 is kind of overkill, to be honest with you, because look at that extra size you have there. I don't know what exactly anybody would be doing that they would require a multi-tool this large. Sure, it's ergonomic, I suppose, especially if you have larger size hands, if you're a big dude. But for me, I don't know. This one just feels a little better to me, a little more nimble, a little bit more nimble in the hand, and just probably easier to carry overall. So that's why I like it. So first thing to notice about these two multi-tools versus some of the older ones, and I'll just bust out the Leatherman Wave here as a comparison, is that check out these plier heads. These ones have the replaceable 154 cm cutters. So where that comes into play is if you're going to be a heavy user of your pliers, let's say you're an electrician or something like that, you might be cutting some small cables, some small diameter cables or wires or something like that. So if you're going to be a heavy user of the wire cutters, this is a newer technology, and it allows you to abuse or use heavily those wire cutters, and then you can just swap them out later. And I think that's a pretty cool feature, to be honest with you. And 154 cm is a good steel. I think you can sharpen wire cutters. I don't actually know how to do it, but I think it's possible. But whereas these older sort of designs from Leatherman, or the less expensive designs, like for example, here is a Sidekick. Again, spring-loaded, which is cool. I really like that, but not replaceable. So if you damage them, you got to live with that for the duration of the tool's life. So that's something that's pretty cool. So what else do we have? What else do we have? I don't know if I literally need to show you every single tool on both of them, because like I said, the tool sets are slightly different, I guess they are. Let me just show you this right here. So here's a difference. You got the fully serrated blade on both, and I kind of like the shape of the Supertool one a little better. I like that. I guess this is a Warrenclyffe style, and I don't know what you would call this, a sheep's foot perhaps. But I suppose they're both good for sort of rescue cutting. I guess this is a rescue tool. You could use it to cut seatbelts. You could use it to cut like somebody's pants or something if they have like a leg injury or whatever. So I guess that's where that tool comes in. I personally don't use serrated blades that often. I find that a really good sharp plain edge will do the job for me, but if you're working on a boat or something like that, you might need to cut ropes and things of that nature, or netting maybe. So something like this could be useful, right? Just not for me as an individual. What else do we have? In here you got the this is the can opener / bottle opener, and I believe this one has the exact same thing. It does. Maybe I'll just bring everything out here so you can see it in the background. So yeah, we got the bottle opener slash can opener. And this works pretty well. I find as a bottle opener, it leaves something lacking because you've got that sharp point that's going to smash down into the metal as you kind of pry it up there. But it gets the job done. I've used it to open cans, used it to open bottles. It works well. Also, all the tools here lock, all the internal tools. It's a lock back design. I'm not sure if you can open more than one at once, but let's give it a try. I think when you open two of them, it unlocks everything. No, never mind, still locked. But you see we got the Phillips head screwdriver there. I think Phillips is a good choice because it's a very common screw head. You also have that on the Supertool, but the sort of the length of the overall tool there is slightly longer on the Supertool, I believe. Maybe I could be wrong, but I think it's a little bit longer. Also, you have the saw. And you can't actually see the saw on the Supertool, but just trust me, it's there. It's just folded inside the handle. But yeah, I think a saw is a great feature to have. And I do like when multi-tools do include that. Oh, you can see the Supertool saw is a little larger there, a little larger. And probably it's going to be more effective overall. So the more work you're doing, that might justify the extra size of the Supertool. Not sure, that's a personal choice, but I like having a saw. And I think for being out in the woods or something like that, this is really, really useful. I've used it also to cut up some sort of small diameter pieces of wood before. And what I mean by that is kind of like a 2x2 or something like that. I've used it for that before too. You can get the job done, but you're going to get tired because you need that extra length on the saw to really be able to get some good speed and leverage and stuff going there. So the smaller the saw, the harder it's going to be to cut the wood. But you can get it done for emergency use as a backpacking tool. I think this would be wonderful actually. It doesn't have scissors. That's the one thing I'll say about it. I really like when multi-tools have scissors, and let me show you one just by comparison that's actually at a cheaper price point. This is the Leatherman Wingman, and I love those scissors. I think for urban use, or if you're a fisher, then I think scissors are very useful. So neither the Rebar nor the Supertool 300 have scissors on them, unfortunately. If they did have scissors, I would probably already own one of these because I think it's a great tool otherwise. Let's just have a look at the other side here because we need to complete our look at the tool set. So this is the main blade on both of them. And I think the one, yeah, just every tool on the Supertool is just a little bit bigger than on the Rebar. But for me, that extra length in most cases wouldn't really provide a huge advantage. Like I think an extra inch or 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch or whatever, it's like, who cares? I'm happy with that smaller package, and I think it would be much easier to carry overall. But the blade shape is nice. I like it a little better than the blade shape on the Sidekick, which I think is a competitive option to these if you're looking within that sort of $50 price range or so. I believe the Rebar is around $50, and I think that the Sidekick is also getting close to $50 as well. If you can find it cheaper, all the power to you. I'm really happy for you because they're both great. But I like this blade shape a little bit better. I don't know why. Just a nice clip. I guess this is a drop point, maybe slightly a clip point, but I think it's a drop point. It looks to be hollow ground. I might be wrong about that, but yeah, don't know what the blade steel is. I think it might be 420 HC, and that's okay. For a tool like this where you're not going to be using the blade all that much, 420 is fine. And here are the remaining tools on the Rebar, and let me just bust out the ones on the Supertool because I think they're just a little bit different maybe. Oh, and there is a file in here too. Sorry, I keep missing tools because they're snug against the handle there. But yeah, there's also a file, and I will just bring out the tools on the Supertool 300 so you can have a look at them and just compare in the background. Yeah, there you go. So you got the file there. I believe it's two-sided. It is. So you got it like a coarse side and then a smoother side. And those are great. What I would say though is I have owned a Rebar in the past. I ended up taking it back to the store because I got it wet, or I used it to do a couple small tasks, and then I would rinse it with water and just like leave it in the drying rack to dry, and I would come back the next day and this would be covered with rust. And I just don't know why. Like, I just had a really bad experience with the Rebar, and I would be lying to you if I didn't mention that experience. So I do think the tools are really cool, but I did experience rust issues with my Rebar. The owner of the Rebar that I have here, he's used it a lot, and he said he didn't have any rusting issues, as I recall. Maybe I'm wrong, but so I don't know if it was just a bad model that I got or what, but I was not impressed with the rust resistance of the rebar that I had. You also have sort of a flathead screwdriver. I guess you got two flatheads here, and this one's a bit narrower. Don't know if these tools have some other function to them. I don't know, mini pry bar, I suppose, as long as you don't torque it too much. And then you have the awl there, and the awl, I believe it's just used to punch holes in things. I think in the old days they used to punch hole in like leather and stuff with it. I never use the awl. I don't know, man. If you really need to stab something, you could just use your knife, right? Like, what are you going to be jamming this through that you couldn't use your knife for? Don't know. Maybe some people really like that. I think the hole here is so you can sew with it or something. But again, like, I don't know. I just don't see it personally. It's just not a tool that I ever use. But yeah, it's there if you want it. And the super tool, you got all the same stuff. I think that the screwdrivers are just a little bit longer in overall length there, but same sort of feature, right? So last thing I'll mention here is about the locking tools. So you can get them open like this and use it like that, but that's kind of awkward. I think what's probably smarter to do is to close it, and then you've got the double safety feature. It locks with the lock back, but even if it was to fold on you, it's not going anywhere because the handle's closed, right? So the last thing I'll mention here, I think, or maybe close to last thing I'll mention, is that these are purely two-handed tools. So you've got like the Leatherman Wave, for example, is a partially one-handed tool. And I think that's why the design was so revolutionary, right? Because you don't have to stop what you're doing. You can literally be holding something in one hand, open this in the other hand, and you're good to go, right? You could literally use this as a one-handed tool, at least for the more common tool set on the external part of the multi-tool. But I don't know if that's important to everyone, right? Because there's a price difference associated with that sort of extra new technology. Also, you see these have, I don't know if these are hex screws or what. I don't think they're torque screws, to be honest with you, but I've never taken apart a Leatherman anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But that is not an option on the Rebar and the Supertool 300 because these are riveted together, so you're stuck with it. That being said, all the videos I've seen of people that own sort of like older knives or older designs of knives that are pinned together, nobody ever seems to complain about it too much. Like, I think people make too much of a deal of having adjustable hardware. And actually, in my experience, when it is adjustable, it tends to loosen up over time. So then you get blade play and things like that. Whereas pinned, it's just like nice and simple, nothing to worry about. If it breaks for whatever reason, send it back to Leatherman because you have that awesome warranty, right? So between the Supertool 300 and the Rebar, as I said already, I would choose the Rebar just because I like that size a little better. Let me fold up the Wave here so you can see them next to each other. It's right around that sort of standard Leatherman length. What I would say though is that the Wave is quite a bit heavier actually than the Rebar, maybe a good 25 or 30% heavier to me anyways, that's how it feels. The Supertool is heavier than both of them. So in terms of overall like heavy dutiness or whatever, I would say that it goes somewhat like this. I'll just throw in the sidekick here, and I will also throw in the Wingman, because I think that you could buy any of these multi-tools depending on what sort of tool set that you're after. But there's only one tool here that kind of seems out of place, and of course that's the Supertool. I just think it's overkill personally. It's way too heavy. I think this is like 10 ounces or 12 ounces or something like that. So it's a heavy duty multi-tool, as it's been called by some people on YouTube, and I would agree with that. I don't think I would ever buy the Supertool 300. I would buy the Rebar, except for, like I said, the rust issue. That really kind of put me off, and this one is absolutely fine. So maybe I just did get a bad one, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think the Rebar is actually quite a nicely constructed and good quality multi-tool for the price point. I think you can get these for under $50, maybe like 40 something. Pretty good deal, I think, and I think it competes really well with the Sidekick. I wish it had scissors. That's the only thing I'll say about it. Wish it had scissors. Don't trust the rust resistance. Those are my only sort of negative comments about it. Supertool, yeah, cool multi-tool, but too big for me personally. They both come in black variations, as does the Wave. Those add a little bit of price to the multi-tool overall, and if I was to buy a Rebar, I think I would go with the black durable coating on there, sort of like this Benchmade mini grip that I keep showing. That would give me a little bit more confidence in the rust resistance. Anyways, I hope that helps. If you're on the fence about buying one of these, give it a try. I think they're extremely popular. I think you will like it. And maybe that'll provide a little bit of insight into the differences between the smaller rebar and the larger Supertool 300. Thanks a lot for watching.